in the SGC conference room. Let me start that again, because that should be one sentence or one part of a sentence and not just separate words.
We're both doing good.
Welcome to Stargatezing, a Stargate gazing podcast. I'm your host, Kathy.
And I'm your other host, Mary.
And every other week, we discuss an episode of Stargate, beginning with Stargate SG-1.
Hello.
Hello.
K and A and T and H and Y all in caps. I like
Yeah.
it. What does that spell? I don't know how to spell.
Kathy.
How are you today?
I'm doing okay. How are you?
I'm okay. I'm grumpy. Ooh, I almost spilled my beer all over my microphone, and that would have made me even more grumpy.
Yes. That would make me grumpy too.
Oh, I'd have been so sad.
Sorry.
But yeah, otherwise I'm fine.
That's good.
Just grumpy. 'Cause
Yeah.
I spent the entire day grading boring things, and I hate grading stuff, so...
Stop assigning them things you have to grade. God.
This class, it's not my decision for this class. It's a lab
Oh.
that I have to teach. Like, the lecturer coordinates all of the microbiology classes, so I have to teach whatever he decides that we are assigning in micro. So yeah, for that one, it's not my choice. I try to minimize my grading as much as possible in the classes where I can choose what I'm assigning.
Go rogue. Like
I'm sure that would go
SG1
over well.
did.
Yes, just like them. I am hoping to get rehired next semester, so probably not the best choice.
I guess. Fine. My fort is smelly. I bought for my new I am not the reason my fort is smelly. I just want to throw it out there. Just in case that's what you were thinking.
I just assumed. I've met you.
Thank you. I bought blankets, new like moving blankets to use instead of my comforter to cover the thing. But I should have aired them out first. I just ripped them out of the plastic and put them up, and I'm like, it's a little chemically in here.
Yeah.
Hopefully I don't die from that.
Don't pass out from any
Yeah.
kind of weird fumes. That would be
I'll try.
sad.
If I do, I'll try to fall to my right, which is where my little doorway is, so that at least my head will be in the fresh air then.
Well, that'll be good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But hopefully not.
Right. But then you're gonna actually build yourself a full on little cabin thing. So that'll be cool.
Yeah, that's the plan. I might have also gotten a knife. I don't have a knife. I mean, I have knives, but not. I got myself enough pipes, I think, that I might be able to do, if I want to keep sitting on the floor, I could make a little mini fort and a larger size one that will encompass me sitting in an actual chair.
Excellent.
So I'll have options, hopefully.
Hang on, I need to answer this phone call. Hang
Oh,
on.
yeah.
We've been waiting for 2 months for this couch. We moved 2.5 months ago, and it was supposed to be here a week after we moved in, and it was delayed.
Oh, my God.
So we've had no couch.
That's depressing.
So I didn't want to risk missing that call because I was like, OMG, it's my couch.
No.
Anyway, you were saying before I got distracted and cut you off, we were talking about your new thing that you're building.
Oh,
and that's
yeah.
going to be super exciting.
Yeah, I think it was the instructions. They were talking specifically about musicians, but I was like, that's gonna work for me.
Yeah,
because I have
absolutely.
I have nothing on my walls. I have almost no furniture in half my rooms, and that's just because I don't need it.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's no carpeting, so everywhere is super echoey. So
yeah,
a little room within a room will be fun.
Right.
Yeah,
that's fantastic.
and it's disassemblable. So
Nice.
yeah. I also can't
nice. Yeah.
staple sound panels to the walls or anything of my apartment.
Right. I'll probably do that in this closet here eventually, but for now the curtains I think are working pretty well.
Well, the curtains.
So maybe not, because I don't really want to put a whole bunch of stuff, because again, same thing, it's an apartment now that we are in, so I don't want to be putting a whole bunch of holes in the wall.
Yeah. That seems like
Yeah.
not the best idea. So
No.
So yeah, although I'm probably never getting any of my deposit money back on this apartment, so maybe I should just go for it.
Do it. We only paid $300 on the deposit for this place because they were doing a special, so.
Nice. That's amazing.
Yeah, so not that big of a deal. Like the several $1,000s that we paid at the last place that we were in for our deposit, which we actually did get all of that back, thankfully. But
nice.
Yeah. But I'm sure they could still bill us, I suppose. If they really wanted to.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, they could probably just bill me above and beyond if they're like, this costs more than your deposit. So, yeah.
Renting stuff. Good times. I can't say that it's any worse than being a homeowner, though, because we did not have a great experience with being homeowners, which is why we're now back to renting.
I don't have to shovel sidewalks in winter unless I really am bored, and that's really nice, and I have no outside upkeep, which I actually wouldn't mind overall doing if somebody else were around to do all the inside cleaning, because I don't want both, though. So
you also don't have to worry about things breaking faster than you can afford to fix them and being underwater on your mortgage for the entire 10 or more years that you own the place, so that when you finally do sell the house, it's at a huge loss.
That is true.
Yeah. But it's the best investment you can ever make.
Oh, yeah.
Unless you're apparently us, because it was not at all an investment for us.
I feel like that's just a big lie they tell you so they can saddle you with huge debt.
Yeah, I think it probably used to be true, but it is not so true these days, I feel like. Not with things being as they are.
Yeah.
And this is like before the pandemic times, too, so it's not like we can blame the pandemic on our house issues. It was the whole housing bubble bursting thing that was our issue.
Right. God, that happened too. Jeez.
That did. We bought our house like right in the middle of that. We're like, ooh, mortgage rates are getting really good. Let's go get a mortgage. So we did. And then mortgage rates continued to drop and the housing market continued to get to be more and more of a buyer's market. Like, so we were like kind of in the beginning of that dip down, and then it just kept sinking down and down more from there, and we lost out.
Not cool.
No.
But you're out of it now, and
yay,
doing good.
We are.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you're getting a couch.
We're getting a couch.
Woo!
Lily is going to be so happy. Lily has been so sad to not have a couch because she just wants to sit next to people. But there's no room. Like, Coconut's okay sitting on lap. She likes to sit next to, but she's perfectly happy sitting on a lap. But Lily's a little bit bigger. She prefers to sit next to somebody. But with the chairs that we have that are just like, not really even full armchairs, there's no room for her to sit next to us in the chairs.
Poor
so she has
Lily.
to sit on the floor, and she has a dog bed to sit on, but a lot of the time Coconut's on it, so then she has to sit on Coconut's small bed, and it's just tragic.
Coconut's kind of an asshole sometimes.
Coconut's a huge asshole, yes. She's really a dick. I love her because she's great, but she's such an ass. Good times.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Season 2.
Season 2. We made it to season 2.
We did.
I had a hell of a time trying to write season 2 as the title of this, my note thing. Instead of writing 1 episode 22 or whatever. Or
apparently
23,
I was so excited about it that I wrote it twice on mine.
Nice.
Season 2, episode 1.
Yes.
The Serpent's Lair.
The Serpent's Lair, season 2. Here we are. So we pick up right where season 1 cliffhanger ends, with SG-1 staring out the window of the ship they're on, seeing that they're very, very close to Earth.
I like that they started out, like the last episode ended with them zooming out that window, and this one started in with them zooming in through that same window that we had just zoomed out in the last episode.
Yeah, that was nice.
A summer or so ago, if this was back in the 90s.
Yeah.
I thought it was an interesting effect.
Yeah. We did get a little previously on, in case you did have to wait
did.
3 months and forgot what happened.
We did,
But
which I skipped over.
Yeah,
Since it hasn't been 3 months.
No. We watched this recently.
We did, last week.
Yes. So we were good.
Yeah.
So the team confirms for Jack that they had put enough C4 around the ship to be able to make a huge impact on it when it goes off. They have locked themselves in this room, but they're expecting that somebody's going to come through the door at them any moment. Jack tells them to get ready to detonate the C4. Daniel tells him to hang on a second because he had a surprise C4 hidden still on his person. So he applies it to the control panel console thing in the room.
Convenient.
Yeah. Jack thinks maybe it's time to say something profound, but can't think of anything to say. So
not that surprising.
No. So he gives the let's do it command, but then, as usual, Teal'c is the one that notices out the window that something's going on.
Yeah, why isn't anyone else more observant besides Teal'c?
I don't know. And Teal'c sees Apophis' ship is there, which is a surprise to them, but Daniel's like, oh, right. He was going to rejoin Chlorel once they were out of the shadows. So Teal'c delivers some bad news that blowing up this one ship is not going to have an effect on the second one, and it will continue on its path and destroy Earth.
Womp womp.
Yeah, terrible.
Mm-hmm.
So they hear some noise coming from outside, so think people are trying to break in the room.
Yes.
I don't know how much of this information we need.
I think it's important.
Yeah.
It gave a sense of urgency to it.
Yeah.
Like out there banging on the door trying to break in.
True. Jack double checks with Sam that the C4 are on a timer, and she confirms that they're on to set to go off in 24 hours. And Jack's like, what? And she's like, well, at the time, I had other information and thought we had more time. They have no way to escape the room, they confirm, so they prepare for a firefight. Jack says it's a bad day, which it does seem to be a pretty bad day.
Looks like I picked the wrong week to quit smoking.
Yeah.
So as soon as the doors start to open, SG1 opens fire on the Jaffa trying to come through. But the Jaffa then throw a sphere into the room that makes a big flash and knocks the entire team out. Credits.
Credits. I actually watched the credits again this time too to see if there was any like significant difference between first and second season. I didn't notice any if there were.
I didn't notice either. Maybe they'll do that later.
I know that they do. This is not the credits we get for the entire season, but
yeah.
In an unknown room, Teal'c wakes up and calls out to Jack, who reaches his hand up and like smacks Teal'c in the face. Apparently they're both blind, so Teal'c didn't see it coming and Jack didn't know what he was reaching for. But Teal'c says that it won't last. Jack just gestures and puts his hand down, but apparently he puts it right down on Sam's face, and so she freaks out and bites him, and he screams. Oh, God! Ow! But then he says that he appreciates her spirit. Daniel is apparently awake too here, and he is not too pleased to be blind and is back into his pity party for himself thing, not really even acknowledging that, like, you know, all of Earth is doomed. And everyone else is blind, but Daniel's kind of just feeling sorry for himself here.
Yeah.
So Jack tells everyone to stay calm because they've been in worse situations before, and Teal'c's like, not to my knowledge. Daniel reiterates that the Goa'uld are getting ready to wipe out Earth completely from space. And Jack's like, well, you've been through it before and you survived. Just relax. But what he didn't really seem to be caring about here or remembering here is the fact that, like, he and everybody else on the SG team died in that whole battle. So he is being a little bit blasé about that.
True.
So he's like, well, we just need to figure out what's going on. And Sam says that she thinks her vision's coming back. So Jack says if she sees anyone coming, then she should bite them in the hand.
Then we see Chlorel being put into a sarcophagus by a Jaffa. It closes, and angry Jaffa yells at another one whose head is bound, and the man with the bowed head vows not to fail Chlorel again, but his boss apparently is not hearing it because he kills him.
Yep. That's that scene.
Yep. The important part is that Chlorel is clearly not dead, so...
Yeah. Yeah, and you know, last episode, too, I had totally, like, not even really thought about the sarcophagi and totally forgot about the whole resurrection thing that they can do, so I wasn't expecting this either.
Crazy.
Yeah.
In the SGC, Hammond's coming down the stairs into the control room and finds, what was his name? Colonel Samuels?
Yeah. Major Samuels?
I can't remember. He got a promotion, but I don't remember what it was. So maybe
I'm pretty sure he's a major now.
I'm just gonna call him.
No, maybe not. Just call him Samuels.
Samuels, yeah.
I don't remember.
Or Assface. Either one of those.
Assface.
He's really the worst in this episode.
He really is. I like Assface.
Yeah. Hammond wants to know what he's doing there. Samuels tells him that he is there to coordinate defense with the Pentagon at the request of the Joint Chiefs, but really at the request of Kinsey, who's another ass face.
Double ass face.
He's like, we did try to contact you. Hammond wants to know why all hands are not on deck, why it's not a full alert. Samuel says the current thinking at the Pentagon is to do nothing, so as not to alert the Goa'uld that Earth knows that they are there. Hammond is skeptical. Wants to know whose idea that was. Samuel then says, I seem to have lost your respect for whatever reason. I cannot imagine
Can't
what
imagine
that
why.
reason is. And then he just plows right into, but if you had listened to me at the start and we'd just buried the Stargate, none of this would be happening. And Hammond calls him out on his I told you so.
Yeah.
That was, yeah. He's just the worst.
He is kind of the worst.
Samuels is there to coordinate a preemptive strike against the ships. They're just waiting on presidential approval. He says they've developed a weapon at Area 51 with Colonel Mayborn, who is another favorite person.
I hate him so much.
I know. They have some prototypes and they are ready for launch. He says if it all goes according to plan, history will mark this day with 2 bright flashes in the night sky, and the world will never know how close it came to Armageddon.
Or the day sky if you don't happen to be in the U.S., but we'll ignore that
Yeah.
part. Apparently.
Yes. They also don't have a specific time. It might not even be night in the U.S. when that happens. So
True. Yeah, very true.
he's just trying to be poetic.
I like that Hammond here is dressed in fatigues instead of like his normal button down.
Yeah.
So he's looking like he's ready for action.
He is ready for action.
Yeah.
Speaking of clothing, did you notice that most of the people in the control room in this episode are all wearing lab coats? And I could not, I can't, I don't know why.
That is weird. Yeah, that's not normally the case.
No.
They normally just either wear like the same kind of button down shirt or fatigues.
Yeah.
In there. That's weird.
Yeah, there was just a bunch of people in lab coats. What are you guys doing? Don't know.
Strange.
Yeah.
I guess that's how we know that it's serious now.
I always pull out my lab coat for serious things.
Who doesn't?
It's the only time I wear a lab coat.
Yeah, obviously. Out in one of the ships, we don't really know exactly which one at this point, we get the fun ring transporter that we haven't seen in a while. Zhoo, 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 zhoo. And we have a meeting between the Jaffa that seemed to be heading Chlorel's guard and Apophis himself. And the guard tells Apophis that Chlorel is healing and that SG-1 is being held until Chlorel arrives. But Apophis orders him to kill him right away. And the guard says that he'll handle it himself. More rings, zhoo, 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 as that guard is out. And an advisor of some sort comes up and tells Apophis that they're going to hold their position where they are, I guess, probably still around the area of Saturn, I think it was.
Yeah.
But that Earth still seems to pose no challenge for them, not really anything happening that would make them think that Earth has any kind of defense for the attack that's coming. But Apophis is skeptical and is like, well, they still found a way to my son, and he says that they're going to attack when Chlorel has risen, and that Earth is going to pay 100-fold for their insolence. I also wanted to mention that Apophis's makeup in this episode, to me, seemed particularly on point, and he was a very striking figure,
I was
thought.
gonna say he had
yeah.
good resolve face in this
He did.
scene. It was
I think he was also looking a little bit more buff under his armor. I feel like a lot of the time, because his armor is so big, he kind of has like come across as being more like a little kind of a little kid, because he's just got kind of a small head and this giant armor. But yeah, I don't know if it's the shape of the armor or they changed his makeup or a little bit of both, or maybe he is more buff, but he was a much more imposing figure in this scene in particular, I felt, than we've really seen before.
yeah, it was good.
Yeah.
In the SGC conference room, a bunch of people are sitting around at a table while Samuels is briefing them on what's going on. They have noticed that the ships have not approached any further towards Earth, but he says that unexplained delay is buying them more time to prepare. They're planning to launch their strike as soon as the ships enter orbit. Hammond asks kind of bitingly what makes this weapon so special. And Samuels has a computer displaying the placement of Naquita bombs inside a rocket, which will make the explosion in excess of 1,000 megatons each.
Yeah. A nuclear rocket. To be exact. I wasn't sure. I did look it up. It is nuclear. Nice. I figured it probably was, but I checked.
And then he says with a smirk, we call them our gold busters. Like it's a clever thing. It's just like so pleased with himself.
He really was.
Yeah. So they're going to launch these 2 rockets in retrograde orbit. They've got a graphic showing them hitting the ships and blowing them up on impact. He says the rockets are made of the same stealth material that their stealth aircraft are made of. And he thinks they should go undetected by radar. Hammond's like, that's assuming they have anything remotely like radar.
It's a pretty big assumption.
Yeah. Samuel says that's their best shot, and I'm sure your bestie president agrees, or he wouldn't have approved it.
What?
Yeah.
T-minus 3 hours. There's even a countdown.
Yeah. T-minus 3 hours. They're going to hold it 2 minutes, I guess, until they're actually ready to do it.
Yeah.
But
until the gold get in range, he said, in case they are just chilling where they are.
He assures Hammond that it's going to work and they will be caught completely off guard. And Hammond's like, well, if you're wrong, every country on Earth will be caught off guard.
Good point, Hammond.
Yeah.
Good point.
So that's fun. I'm enjoying Hammond a lot in this episode.
I know. We make fun of him a lot, but I thought that he was really good.
He was really good. He was so disdainful of Samuels. It's so good. He's so hints of sarcasm and like, oh, it's so good.
Yeah. Not to mention, like I said, like the action gear. He was looking good. He just, he was
Hammond.
He was a much more impressive figure, I felt, than he normally is.
Hammond and Apophis.
Also a more impressive figure than he normally is.
They're killing it.
Yeah, they really are. Apophis, Hammond, kicking ass.
Yeah.
Not that I should be cheering for Apophis, but I'm not, but I was just saying, he was striking.
Right.
Hammond also kicking butt. Yeah. Back on Clarel's ship, Daniel says, well, on the bright side, my hand isn't blurry anymore. Whatever, Daniel. Guards come up outside, and Jack and Teal'c hide on either side of the door because the door takes its sweet-ass time loudly opening, so they've got all kinds of warning that there's people coming, not to mention they could hear them marching up outside a mile away. And then in walks Braytac, because apparently the first prime on Clarel's ship is Braytac, which we didn't know before because he had his helmet on. And Braytac comes in and immediately punches Jack in the face and calls them all fools and asks if they have any idea what he's had to do in order to regain the trust of Apophis and join this campaign. And then Teal'c and Braytac have a cute little greeting in a brief little moment, and Braytac tells Teal'c that his son is growing strong, but that they shouldn't have come. And there are a few other guards in the background at this point, so I guess they're kind of cool with all that's happening. And later on, Braytac actually does confirm that these guys are on his side, but I was a little confused at the time about these extra guards who were just there watching. Teal'c tells Braytac that he stands with his friends and says that Earth might be their only hope to overcome the Goa'uld.
You're my only hope.
So it's important to defend the planet, and Braytac says that unfortunately he agrees. And that he might have even been able to save Earth if the morons here hadn't gotten involved. Jack's like, what do you think we've been trying to do? It is our world after all. And Braytac's like, well, this isn't the place to talk about this because I have been ordered to kill you, which I'm obviously not going to do. So just follow me. And they leave the room.
This was another one at the beginning that I liked the start of the scene. It wasn't the transition, but like outside before he opened the door, you see the silhouette of the snake helmet opening. It was pretty neat.
It was. Yeah, they've done some cool stuff with this one. There were a couple other transitions. I think, well, maybe only one other couple transitions I've made notes of that I thought were interesting choices.
Yeah.
Made it more fun to watch.
Agreed. Back in the SGC, Hammond and Walter are looking at the ships on a computer monitor. Hammond's like, they still haven't moved. Walter said, not in the last 18 hours. So some time has passed since the start of the episode, because there was still 24-ish hours, right, before the thing was supposed to... Anyway, some time was past.
It's been quite a while.
Hammond's curious what they're waiting for. Samuels overhears and butts in and says that his mission analysis team at the Pentagon thinks the Goa'uld are waiting to see what Earth does.
Mm-hmm.
He says the Russians or Chinese have not detected the ships, but they're not looking for them. He says they look vulnerable and unsuspecting to the Goa'uld. Hammond's like, got him just where you want him. Love it. So much disdain, which I did not express very well.
Got him just where you want him, do you, Samuel?
But it's just so good. Walter posits another reason for the delay, that there had been some sort of energy burst on one of the bridges of the ship. So they had been able to notice something, but they don't know what they noticed, and they don't really know if it's part of the normal function of the ship, but Walter, I think, tends to think not, because it came from inside the ship.
Yeah.
So they think maybe explosion. So Hammond's like, or sabotage. So they both think SG-1. Samuels laughs. He's like, I hardly think so. It's impossible to gate to his ship. I know how important they are to you, but it's wishful thinking. And Hammond's like, so's your plan. But that hasn't stopped us from going ahead with it.
Yep.
So, yeah. So much good. Hammond.
And then somebody comes in and tells Hammond that the first group for the Alpha list has just arrived. So I guess that is this Earth version of the Beta list on the other planet.
And she's wearing a lab coat.
Yep. Back on Chlorel's ship, Braytak is handing out weapons. Braytak says that assaulting Chlorel made his plan completely impossible, because with the Goa'uld, Pharaoh's power is more often challenged by his own sons than by his enemies. So what Braytak had planned was to wait for the battle to start, and then while Apophis was distracted, he was going to take as many people as he could to go and attack Apophis himself, and then he would blame Chlorel for it, and then Apophis, assuming Chlorel had ordered this battle, would then fight back, and they would essentially destroy each other. Tilk approves of this plan. And Braytak said that he wanted to drive a stake of mistrust between them, but now they're probably just going to bond even more closely now because they have a common enemy. Oops. And Jack's like, well, how can they bond when Chlorel is dead? And he also has forgotten about the sarcophagus, as I did, and its ability to resurrect people. So Braytak's like, well, he's going to come back. Jack is very stunned to learn that. And then he does remember the sarcophagus, and he's like, you put him in that thing to bring him back? And Braytak's like, well, I wanted to buy you some time, so when the ships from your world get assembled, and Sam's like, ships of our world? Braytak's like, yeah, your vessels. Daniel's like, well, we have, shuttles. Braytak's like, formidable shuttles, right? Jack's like, yep. Bad day.
Looks like I picked the wrong week to quit sniffing glue.
It was an amusing scene.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
So, good humor. In the SGC, the gate is dialing, and Hammond is standing in front of it to a group gathered there. He's speeching at them that the world faces a deadly threat. They've volunteered for this mission to preserve humankind by starting a new colony, and the big surprise is that they're going to, as the gate opens, it whooshes behind him, which is a really nice look, by the way. But he's like, you're going to step through that thing, and then you're going to be on the other side of the galaxy. Surprise!
Yep. Everyone's looking pretty stunned when they show out on the crowd.
He says Godspeed.
He does.
That was,
Yeah. Back up on Chlorel's ship, sarcophagus opens. Chlorel wakes up looking very pissed and says, "Let us burn their world to ashes." And his eyes are so glowy.
They are.
Yeah. Back in the Earth control room, Walter tells everybody in the room that they are moving, so they can see the ships are moving. And we see Hammond standing there with Samuels behind him. Samuels is on the phone and tells everyone to restart the countdown, hold at T-minus 20 seconds, and they will launch the weapons the moment that the ships have settled into orbit. Assuming that they're going to settle into orbit, because how do they know that they're not going to just kind of do like a crop duster style flyby attack? But I mean, that's not what happens, but it seemed like a kind of big assumption to me.
Who knows?
Yeah.
This guy assumes a lot of things.
You assume too much.
On Chlorel's ship, Teal'c notices that they're accelerating and says Chlorel must have risen. And Braytac confirms that they must be preparing for battle, and so the fight's going to begin soon. And then as soon as it does, they're going to begin their own attack. So Jack's like, "Great, how many men do you have?" And Braytac says 3. He's very proud of those 3. Yes. Jack is a little skeptical of that. But then Braytac points out, well, Teal'c makes it 4. Jack's like, "Oh, of course, yes, 4. So much better.
Yep.
But Braytac points out that he has the utmost faith in his warriors because he's trained all of them since they were very young and has known them all for a very long time. And all of them have sworn their lives to him. But Jack's like, well, what are the odds of us taking out this ship with 4 gliders and maybe a shuttle? Teal'c says that the ships are heavily armed and shielded and have legions of gliders to fight back against them. So their odds are not looking so good with this plan. So Jack points out that maybe they should have a new plan then, given all of that. Braytac gets really pissed at this point and is like, well, we offered to put down our lives for your world. You really can't ask us any more than that. And Jack says, well, no, I can't. But maybe a better plan is to get the other guys to lay down their lives for their world first before we lay down our own. Braytac and Teal'c exchange a look. Jack asks Sam how much longer they've got on the C4 timer, and apparently we're all the way down to 41 minutes with that one. And Jack says, with any luck, this ship blows up within the hour, so is there any way to get us to that other ship? And Braytac smiles.
Oh, that Braytac. Chlorel is at his control station. He can see Earth through the view screen, and he sticks his hand in the little control box, whatever.
Yeah.
End of scene.
Yes.
Yeah. In the SGC, Sam's. That's Samuel's. That's my new nickname for him. Sam's.
Your buddies.
Yeah.
You hate him, but
I hate him.
You hate him, but your buddies anyway.
And my nickname for Hammond is Hammy.
Hammy.
You can have a Hammy Sam's? I don't know. That's weird. Anyway.
A Hammy Sammy.
Yeah.
Do I want a ham sandwich?
I think I'm going to have grilled cheese for dinner.
Nice.
Yeah. But that's neither here nor there. Anyway.
Yeah.
Samuel says the ships are in geosynchronous orbit over the United States, and they are a go for launch. We see on the computer monitor the rockets actually launching. Samuels is then staring at a different monitor, which is showing a depiction, not actual photos because it's in space, of the rockets going towards the ships.
I do have a question here. How oblivious are all of the other countries of the world that they don't notice that the U.S. has just launched nuclear weapons?
It does seem...
And nobody launches anything back in defense or in retaliation? Like, did we tell everybody, hey, we're just going to take these out for a test drive?
Maybe.
No, it's fine. Don't worry about these rockets that look like they're coming to your country, because they're totally not, we swear. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
so,
yeah.
Thankfully, there was no nuclear Armageddon as a result of all this.
They did leave Earth.
Yeah.
So
they left Earth, no one noticed, everything was fine.
Walter says that I think Vandenberg reports it was a good launch, and Samuels grossly goes, yes! Hammond is staring daggers at him. So Samuels realizes this and tries to soothe a little, like, I doubt SG-1 was aboard those ships.
Yeah.
Walter's...
Or if they were going to die anyway,
yeah.
So, you know.
Yeah, it's fine.
Whatever.
Yeah. Walters tells them that the weapons are set to reach their targets in 4 minutes, and Hammond says, in the meantime, we're going to keep moving people to the Alpha site, and Samuel's like, what's the point of that? This is totally going to work, and Hammond's like, just in case, I think we'll just keep doing that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
On Chlorel's ship, Braytek and all are getting ready, and he asks if Jack has any more 4Cs, and Sam says they don't. Daniel's like, well, you gotta have something useful, right? And Braytek's like, we'll just cross that bridge when we come to it. Jack's like, that cliche doesn't always work.
That was a great callback to
It was.
when, yeah, Jack used that.
Also found that amusing.
Yeah.
Back in the SGC, Walter says that the warheads have separated, and Hammond asks if there is any indication of any countermeasures, but Samuels says he doesn't think they're going to know what hit them. He is feeling very confident here. On Apophis's ship, in the control room, the advisor tells Apophis that they've launched weapons at us, and Apophis says, let them come. A lot of short scenes.
Apophis is confident with reason.
Yes,
unlike
Apophis
Samuels.
is confident with reason. Much more reason than Samuels.
Yeah.
Good call. In the SGC, Walter's counting down 30 seconds to impact and says there's still no countermeasures, and Samuels is like, go! On Chlorel's ship, one of the guards says to Chlorel that their weapons approach, my lord, we must activate the shields. Apparently they haven't put up their shield yet, which is not a good idea. On Apophis's ship, Apophis is telling Chlorel to tell Shock, which we don't get a translation of, but I think from the emphasis in it seemed to mean he was also telling Chlorel to put the shields up. Back on Chlorel's ship, Chlorel watches the weapons come, and he stares down at his hand, and we actually see that his hand is shaking. And his fingers are kind of stretched out, but they seem to be convulsing and like twitching, almost like they're trying to go and make a fist. So I was like, yay, go Skara!
Yeah.
Because it's clear that they're trying to point out that Skara is fighting back. He is fighting against Chlorel's control and trying to prevent the raising of the shields.
Hell yeah.
But then, unfortunately, Chlorel does win out. His eyes go glowy. He spreads out his fingers, and we see a gold wavery sheen come down over the window, and the shields are now up. Missiles detonate just into the shield, and there is no impact on the ship.
SG1's walking through the halls of Chlorel's ship.
Yep.
They feel the impact. Daniel's like, what was that? Teal'c's like, something impacted the shield. In the SGC, Walter says Space Command reports the warheads struck an energy shield before they impacted the ship, and there was no damage to the ships. Samuels is in denial. That's impossible!
That's not true. That's impossible.
But NASA's confirmed it.
You know it to be true.
And Samuels starts to show a little bit of dread on his face.
Yeah.
Just a little.
Who would have thought
I know.
that their plan wasn't going to work?
Nope.
Oh, right, Hammond and everyone else.
Yeah. On Chlorel's ship, the team's still walking through the corridors. As they sneak along the way, they are spotted and Jaffa open fire. Jack manages to shoot both of them despite their, very rapid fire onslaught. Braytek tells him not bad, and they keep going. In the SGC, Hammond's on his red phone with Bestie Prezi. He tells the president that not only did the bombs not work, but the EMP from the explosion affected satellite communication, so good job on that one, Samuels. Yep. So he says it's pretty difficult to warn the public in time to do anything but cause panic about the oncoming destruction of the world. He recommends they go to the highest defense condition and advises the president to get on Air Force One.
I mean, even if they had been able to tell people, we know that panic would happen anyway among half the population, and then the other half of the population would be like, I'm protecting my castle, and then the other half, because there's 3 halves in this scenario, would be like, this is a conspiracy of lies, we don't need to do anything.
Yep.
So you know, it really doesn't matter.
It really
if they
doesn't
can't tell
matter.
anyone.
Well, especially if it's a thing you can't actually do anything about anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Like, what are people going to do? You can't run and hide, so yeah. On Apophis' ship, rings come down, and Apophis...
Sorry.
And behind Apophis, Chlorel beams down. That's a great sound effect. Apophis tells Chlorel meaning Chlorel, is going to burn the first city to the ground, but Chlorel tries to tell his father that the host that he has chosen is a bit too strong, and Chlorel's worried that he needs a little bit more time to gain more strength in the sarcophagus. But Apophis basically just tells him to stop being a wimp because he's Apophis' son.
Right.
So Chlorel's like, yes, father. And Apophis tells him, don't disappoint me. And Chlorel beams back out to his own ship. On the other ship, SG1 and Team Braytac are running. And then they stop and hide because there's those convenient corners all over the place. And it looks clear, but Braytac says that there'll be sentries in every corner. So SG1 discuss maybe using a grenade, but Braytac asks what that is, and Tilk describes it as a crude explosive device. And Braytac's like, no, we're not going to do that. Watch and learn. So he casually walks down the hall and comes up on a couple guards in the alcove, and those guards jump to their weapons, but then realize that they recognize Braytac, so they go back to standing at ease, and then Braytac very easily takes them out. Braytac's like, not bad.
Yeah. They couldn't learn anything from that because Braytac is the only one who could have accomplished that because they weren't trying to kill Braytac. So
a very good point. Yeah.
But
Jack could not have as easily just wandered down the hallway.
Yeah. Just mind my own business. Don't mind me. Hey, how's it going, guys?
Sup? Yep.
But I still enjoyed it.
It was an amusing scene.
Jack and Braytac being like, nice job, guys. Nice job to you. Ooh. Yeah, I'm enjoying it. Hammond comes in the control room at the SGC. He's informed that Alpha Teams 12 and 13 have been sent through. Samuels is sitting down, looking really disheveled. His tie is askew, his jacket's open, he's slouching. He's sitting there drinking, I'm guessing, coffee, who knows. Maybe alcohol, really, at this point. Why not, right?
Yeah.
It's like I picked the wrong week to quit drinking.
He asks Hammond if he's considered using the Stargate as a strategic weapon by sending bombs either to the coordinates that Daniel gave them that he got from the parallel world or to Chulak. And Hammond's like, well, we already tried to send a team to those coordinates that Daniel gave us, and that was a no-go. And there is no military reason to kill the people of Chulak. So he is a better commander than O'Neill was on the alternate world.
Apparently so. Yeah.
Samuel asks, since I'm no longer wanted, needed here, if he can go to the Alpha site, and Hammond's like, denied. We only send the best and the brightest through.
It was so harsh. I loved it.
He tells Samuels that when the time comes, he will stand alongside and defend this facility. Samuels is like, but sir, and Hammond yelling over him is like, I ask no more of myself. Dismissed.
And then he says dismissed with like the most disgust that you could possibly, I think, muster in any voice.
Dismissed.
It was so good.
It really was. Then we got a really cool transition, like through the wall, and then we were in the next scene, which was on Chlorel's ship. It was really cool.
It was. Really liked it.
Yeah. On Chlorel's ship, Braytac and SG1 are, surprise, surprise, in another hallway. Jack tries to make a plan for what they're going to do, but Braytac is like, nope, I'm leading, you're following. And so they all flank the door, and Braytac goes in first. Daniel tries to object, but Braytac reminds him that he is the one that is the loyal servant here. Inside the Chlorel room, Braytac comes in and is followed by another guard. Not sure if it's one of his own or one of Chlorel's, probably doesn't really matter. And so he and Chlorel greet each other out in the hall. SG1 is still on either side of the door, just kind of watching and listening. I guess that's probably not important either. There's so many short scenes, and it's such a fast-paced episode.
Yeah.
Inside the room, Chlorel tells Braytac, I love this scene too. Chlorel tells Braytac to come and witness the power of his god, but Braytac says he cannot. And Chlorel is pissed and wants to know why Braytac is defying him. And Braytac says, it's because you're not a god, but a parasite and a child, and I despise you. It was such a great scene.
So good.
Chlorel is even more pissed, obviously, now, and raises his sparkle bling hand and shouts, I am your god, and you will feel my wrath, and he blings Braytac. Braytac says he will die free and drops to his knees, and SG-1 takes that as their cue. So they run in, and there's a firefight. SG-1 takes out all of the guards, and they manage to catch Chlorel out in the hall. Daniel, like a badass, like runs out in the middle of the hall and takes out a bunch of guards, but is taken down in the process. He's got like 2 guns, and he's running across the hall.
You ever fired 2 guns whilst jumping through the air? No. You ever fired 1 gun whilst jumping through the air? No.
But in the process, he is severely injured. He's got like a giant gaping wound on his shoulder. Jack comes out and tries to help him, but Daniel yells at him to go and leave him behind because he says that both ships are going to blow up anyway, so he's just going to be holding them back at this point, and they're all going to die, so it doesn't really matter. Jack goes back in and tells the others that Daniel is staying behind. And Braytac does something at the controls and brings the ring down. And all that we see getting into the ring now is Teal'c, Jack, Braytac, Sam, and Chlorel. So I guess all of Braytac's team was taken out in this whole fight as well. So a lot of people have gone down. They ring over to the other ship, and the last part that we get of that scene is Daniel crawling into the control room after they've left.
I have to say, the despair that Daniel, the way he said, like, what difference does it make? And this, like, he sounded so hopeless.
Have you ever fired your gun up in the air and gone, ah? No, I have not ever fired my gun up in the air and gone, ah.
He did.
It was so good.
Yeah.
Like, this whole episode is just really good. Spoiler alert. I loved it.
We both loved this episode.
In case you couldn't tell.
Yeah.
Just like, well done. Well done, everyone.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
round of
absolutely.
applause. The team zhuzh into Apophis' control room. The Jaffa ready to fire, but Apophis stops them as he spots the Chlorel. So Teal'c grabs Chlorel and threatens to kill him if anyone fires upon their people. The team moves out. Apophis asks Braytac, how dare you betray me? And Braytac says, I have spent 133 years worshipping false gods, as he takes out his staff weapon and shoots Apophis' control panel. No more, he says. So they leave, and as they're leaving, they shove a Chlorel into the room with Apophis, and then they shoot the door controls so that it will not open. So Apophis and Chlorel are trapped in there. Sam says there are 6 minutes to C4 boom. So Jack wants to know how they can blow up this ship, and Braytac lets them know he directed Chlorel's ship to be moved a little closer to Apophis' ship so that, as Teal'c realizes, if they just disable the shield generator, both ships will be destroyed in the explosion. So they're off to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the ship control room, guards are trying to get the doors open, and Apophis is looking super pissed and goes up to Chlorel and tells Chlorel he disappoints him, and Chlorel asks for forgiveness. It was sad. I felt bad for Chlorel, even though
he's evil.
Chlorel is like taken over by a demon hagfish, and it's, you know, really Skara, and he's stolen Skara's body. I still felt a little bad for him.
I mean, you don't like to see a father being mean to his kid.
Exactly.
Like,
yeah,
that's not a good look.
No. Out in some random MacGuffin room, as is always the case, the thing that you need to disable the shield generator, I guess it's not really a MacGuffin room, I thought it was, so...
it just reminded me of the Death Star core. Like,
exactly, yeah.
They all look like that way.
Yeah, as is always the case, whenever a shield generator needs to be disabled somewhere, it is in the center of a giant room that is like tens or hundreds of stories tall, and the only way to access it is a catwalk, and it is always either way too high up or way too far down from wherever it is accessed by the heroes. And so, yes, as holds true for Star Wars, also holds true here. In this case, it is many stories below them. Braytac goes through this elaborate plan of how they're going to go down a bunch of decks and they can go across this way and out that way, but Jack just pulls out a couple grenades, pulls the pins, and tosses them, and it works. They explode, they take out the shield generator, Braytac gives him a look, Jack's like, grenades. So Teal'c points out that the vessel is no longer protected by an energy field. Thank you, Teal'c. And Sam's like, that's it? Teal'c's like, that's it. Jack says, I think what Carter is really asking is, well, what now? And Braytac says, now we die. Jack says, that's a bad plan. Where are those glider bays at?
That's good. In the SGC, Walter says, Space Command reports these ships are moving closer together. Hammond wants to know the status of their shuttle Endeavor. And Walter says it's standing by. And Hammond's like, we need to find out what's going on.
Yeah, apparently they are actually running a shuttle. I thought that it was really just a joke before.
Me too.
They make it to the glider bay. Jack starts to make a plan, but this time Braytac cuts him off with a simpler plan. And he has one of those kind of flashbang things that we saw before, which he quietly rolls in. It goes off, makes a loud noise, and a bright flash, and takes everybody out in the glider bay. Teal'c and Sam go to one glider. Braytac and Jack go to another one. Braytac tosses Jack an earpiece and says, human, put this on. And Jack asks that Braytac please stop just calling him human. And then they take some little elevators up into the gliders.
Woo! Back on Chlorel's ship, Daniel managed to get himself into the sarcophagus and he's done baking. So it pops open. Yeah. He wakes up, he gets up, his clothes have been repaired on top of his wound, which was really impressive. Well done, sarcophagus. Mm-hmm. Daniel gets out and goes over to the control panel to check the time on the C4 he planted earlier. He's got 1:15 and he runs out of there.
On Apophis' ship, through the window, we see that the other ship, Chlorel's ship, is drifting closer and closer. Apophis puts his hand on the controls, but they don't work because, of course, Braytac did shoot them before. Chlorel's just kind of hanging out in the background here, and Apophis turns around and storms up to him and then whips back around and brings the rings down, and they transport out.
Somewhere. Don't know where they went.
Don't know where yet. No.
Back on Chlorel's ship, C4 is still counting down. The C4 doesn't count down. The timer on the C4 continues to count down. That would be pretty impressive, I think. If
it would.
The bomb itself could do the things. Anyway, Daniel has reached the gate room on the ship, and he stops for a moment to think of a place to dial, and he starts dialing.
On Apophis' ship, the gliders are dropping down out of the hangar. Sam says to punch it.
Let's punch it.
Engage.
Engage.
Do it.
And where are we on the ongoing matter?
So far, we have narrowed it down to execute, hit it, and manifest.
Punch it. And they take off.
Woo! With less than 10 seconds left, Daniel manages to get the gate open and jumps through just as the counter hits 1 second left.
Ooh. Out in space, we get a lovely view of the two ships colliding and blowing up. Woo. Big fiery explosion. And in the foreground, cool scene, the gliders fly away from the chaos that is happening behind them, and those gliders are thrown forward towards the camera.
Yeah. At the SGC, Walter reports that there was a huge fireball in the night sky. So everyone in the command center wearing their lab coats start cheering.
And throwing papers in the air.
They're very happy.
Like, in real life, is that really ever anyone's reaction? I'm going to throw these important documents everywhere.
I don't know.
And then who's going to clean it up and put everything back in order?
That isn't necessary. The ship will clean itself.
Hammond walks closer. He doesn't look happy, and I think it's because he's pretty sure that means SG-1 was aboard the ship, and is assuming they're dead.
Yeah, he just kind of looks stunned and is standing there with his mouth open.
Yeah.
He's the only one that's not cheering.
No.
Back out in space, in the gliders, everyone seems to be okay. The two gliders are flying side by side, and we can kind of see through Jack and Braytac's window into Sam and Teal'c's glider. Sam says she doesn't think they bought themselves a whole lot of time after all, because apparently their glider is very badly damaged and low in power. And she thinks that they're just going to burn up in Earth's atmosphere. But Jack cuts her off and tells her to just look up. So she does. And she says it's beautiful. Apparently they're looking up at a really nice view of Earth from super close up. And Jack says, yes, it is. And Sam says, we saved it. And Jack says, yes, we did.
In the SGC, we've got an incoming traveler. Walter reports that it's SG1's code, so they open the iris, and in walks Daniel. Or through walks Daniel, I guess. Hammond runs to greet him. He asks if the team was on the ship. Daniel says yes. Hammond asks how'd he get out of there, and Daniel said that there was a Stargate aboard the ship, and he realized it was close enough to Earth that he'd be able to dial out, so he dialed P3X984, which is apparently the address of their alpha site, but also the address of the beta site in the alternate universe, which is how Daniel knew it. Hammond wants to know where the rest of the team was, and Daniel's just quiet.
Back out in space. I don't think that Sam necessarily specified that it was both gliders that were damaged, but apparently in this scene we really get the idea that it is both gliders, not just the one that she and Teal'c are in. Braytac tells Teal'c that they die well, and then Teal'c says, more than that, old friend, we die free. Jack notices something out in front of them and kind of leans forward. We don't see what it is yet, but he says, or not. And then we do get a view of what he's seeing, and the Endeavor floats into view. Over the radio, we hear them calling to SG1 and saying that they have them in sight.
So they get rescued, but we don't know how because they don't show it. So how do they manage to get them down without everybody dying?
Magic.
The magic of a happy ending.
Yeah.
It was a really pretty scene too, like them watching the Earth. The music was really nice. It was another really well done scene. Yeah. Like so many of them in this episode.
Yeah.
Back in the SGC, SG1 comes into the gate room to applause. Also, Braytac is there.
SG3/4?
Yes, SG3/4. I'm sorry. SG1 minus Daniel. Hammond walks over to greet Braytac and tells him words cannot express their gratitude. And Braytac says, "You're Hammond of Texas," and puts his hand over his head like when Jack was describing him as bald when Braytac says his warriors serve him well, and Hammond says he's sorry to see him go home so soon, but Braytac says he needs to get back quick before word of what has happened reaches Chulak. So they all nod and say goodbye, and then a guy pulls Braytac aside and says he's got some questions before he leaves and leads him out of the gate room, which
that seemed like a weird way to end Braytac's involvement in the episode.
But also, why are they then in the gate room if not to say goodbye to Braytac? It doesn't make any sense why they're all just gathered in there.
Also a great question. It's not like they had just come in through the gate, because they were brought back on the shuttle and we saw them coming into the gate room from the door, not the gate.
Yeah. Hammond then tells SG3/4 that someone would like to see them, and they look expectantly in the crowd, and Daniel comes through to greet them, and they're all smiles and hugs. Jack calls him...
Why was he standing behind everybody?
I don't know. He wanted it to be a surprise.
He literally shoves people aside to come forward.
Jack calls him a space monkey.
He did.
Okay. Yep. So then everyone's just kind of milling around and hugging. Yep. And we pan back, and the final scene is this crowd of happy people seen through the Stargate.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
So. That was
quite an episode.
It
was very fast paced. There were a lot of short scenes in that.
Yes, there were.
Yeah.
I think I know your answer.
Yes.
But how did you like this episode?
I didn't like it. I lied before.
Traitor!
I just wanted to mess you up.
No.
Yeah, obviously I liked the episode a lot. As I said, it was really fast-paced. It was a very exciting episode. There were a ton of great scenes. I thought it was a really great episode for Hammond in particular, with his character just being so reviled, just so hating on Samuels. And it was a really good episode for, who else was I going to say? I don't know. But yeah, I forget what I was going to say after that. My brain isn't working.
Mine either.
Yeah, so it was a really good episode for Hammond, who just clearly hated Samuels so much. There was a lot of good dialogue in it that was either like really poignant or made me laugh or was just funny and silly, and a lot of good, cool looking shots and transitions. So I thought it was a great episode all around. And my one complaint is that Sam like had practically no role in it. Like we point out, like she did a couple things here and there, but most of what we get as Sam is just a screenshot of her silently reacting to things other people are saying, and she had like hardly any dialogue herself. And other than like being the timekeeper for the C4, she like really wasn't all that involved in like anything that was really happening, and so that bothered me a little bit. But I feel like I kind of noticed it as I was watching the episode and was like, well, maybe I was just kind of imagining things, and it just seemed like she wasn't really involved. But then as we're going through, and I realized like she has hardly shown up in my notes at all, except for like a little bit here and there. So yeah, she really didn't have anything particularly important to do in this episode, which was the only thing I didn't like. But overall,
You're right. Yeah,
I loved the episode. I thought it was great.
Yeah, I too thought it was great. Yeah. I think we liked a lot of the same things. Loved Hammond, loved him in this episode. I thought Apophis and Chlorel were both great. Like, I mean, they're obviously evil monsters that we hope are dead, but you know,
probably not.
But probably not. Yeah,
but we'll see.
They were really good. Daniel was great. I really enjoyed the interactions between Braytac and O'Neill. They were very fun, sort of showing off for each other and like kind of, I don't want to say one-upping, but yeah, just kind of their sort of friendly rivalry, I guess, even though Braytac's calling him human through all of this. But I think that's just his way. And
yes.
Again, I also really like the transitions, and I actually really like the visual of the explosion too, because like these two ships kind of crash into each other and they're both exploding, but then they just merge into this one big ball of fire, and I really like that.
I thought it was a surprisingly good effect for a 90s TV show.
Yeah.
Really. Because, like, you know, it was still kind of early in a lot of, like, CG graphics, and you would see this kind of stuff maybe in movies, but it surprised me that, like, I think this show was fairly low budget at the time. Maybe I'm just making assumptions, but it really kind of surprised me that a show that is just on TV would have a really good effect like that. And, I mean, like, I'm sure that their CG budget's pretty high because of all the stuff they do with like the gate effects and everything.
Yeah.
But I thought it was a really great effect, great great explosion scene.
I think they were still working with Showtime money at this point, and maybe they wanted to put a lot into the new season start anyway.
Yep.
Yeah. So there was a lot of good stuff. Jack was really funny, but then the seriousness of everything also was well treated. Like, it wasn't just him joking all the time, and
right.
So yeah, the whole thing.
Yeah.
Except apparently that there's no Carter, which is terrible, but
right.
Which I didn't really realize until you said that. So
yeah. To be fair, I don't think that Daniel really has a whole huge role either, but he does obviously have a big role at the end, so that kind of makes up for this fact that he doesn't do a whole lot earlier in the episode, because he's got like his big leaping across the hall scene, and then the whole scene where he like just makes it off the ship just barely in time. So like he kind of gets his own little interesting side story, but she doesn't get that either.
Teal'c also, actually, this might just be the Jack and Braytac show, because Teal'c said things, but he was mostly like explaining things, like stating the obvious about what's happening, like the shield is down, or this is what a bomb does.
Yeah, he had a good amount of dialogue, but it didn't really progress the story about a whole lot. You're right. He just kind of was like the encyclopedia, the translator between Braytac and Jack.
But so good.
Yeah, such a good episode. I really enjoyed it.
Woo.
What is next?
What is next? Let me pull it up. Just continue to use the Netflix description. if it will ever... Oops, I just started an episode instead of... Hold on.
Good job.
It's so easy to do on the computer. Like, you just click on the icon and there it is. Let me go down. There we go. Season 2, Episode 2 is called In the Line of Duty. As the SG1 team hopes to rescue the... Thank you.
You're welcome.
In the line of duty. Anyway. As the SG1 team hopes to rescue the survivors of a planet attacked by the Goa'uld, Carter's body is taken over by a Goa'uld, which returns to Earth. Holy cow.
Ooh.
Yeah.
My goodness. Sounds exciting.
Yeah.
Probably not as exciting as this episode, but
Probably not.
exciting nonetheless.
It'd be hard to top this one, I think.
It would.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. As always, thank you for listening. And make sure that you subscribe to the podcast if you haven't already done so on your podcatcher of choice. New episodes are released every other Monday, and you can find it on YouTube as well. We very much appreciate reviews and likes as they help others to find our podcast. And what helps others even more to find our podcast is word of mouth. So if you like the show, please tell everybody that you know about it. If you would like to get in touch with us, you can email us. We're at stargatezing@gmail.com. On Twitter, we're at Stargatezing. And you can share our page or join our group on Facebook, Stargatezing on both of those. We're on patreon.com/Stargatezing if you're feeling generous and would like to help with our production costs. And you can, of course, find us on our website at stargatezing.space. I'm Mary.
I'm Kathy.
And you've been listening to Stargatezing. The end.
The end. Yay!
Woo, indeed.
Woohoo! Woohoo! I'm done now. Am I done? No, I'm not. I'm not done.
Never.
I'm never done.
Kathy's never done.
Never ever done.
It's a lovely song.
Thank you. Never ever done. Never ever done.
Totally leaving this in.
Great. That's great. I'm so happy to hear it.
This is the new musical podcast with Kathy is singing. I can't talk.
Singing nonsense.
You should sing all of your descriptions of what's going on from now on.
Oh my god.
Everything that you explained about the episode, you should be singing it.
SG1 enters the gate room to applause with... They deserve it. Hammond walks over to greet Braytac. That's too much.
Good times.
Yeah.